Good morning. Welcome to the start of another week. Welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. A couple of things to talk about this week. Definitely some news and some rollouts of new interesting things. The first of which is a blog post I put out in the week, and it's all about shared channels and specifically the support for the API support in Microsoft Graph for shared channels. Now, we've known about shared channels for a little while. It was announced last month. And it's now rolling out to public preview. We know that is happening. What we haven't really seen is anything, any kind of support in the SDKs or the APIs or anything like that for shared channels. And I think I talked about this last time a little bit because there was in the kind of what's next roll up, or what's new roll up, the monthly roll up that Microsoft do every month from the Teams team, announcing what's new. And it did say in that there would be something coming. But we didn't really have any detail. We do now have all that detail. We do know what it is. And we know there's a change to a number of API calls. There's 10 new API calls. So super interesting. Let's go through them in some detail. So this is the blog post. And in the blog post, I kind of go through what they are. So there's a lot of new, in fact, if I go right to the end of the blog post, that's probably a good place to start. So here you can see these are all the new and updated ones. The only one that's really been updated is this add member one, because this already existed for adding members to a channel. And now it's just been updated to support shared channels. I can't remember why it's been updated. I think there's just an ability to provide the tenant ID as well. That's the big thing that's different. So if you're adding a user to a shared channel, you will also need to provide the tenant ID as well as the user ID, which all kind of makes sense. These are all new, other than this one, these are all new API calls that you can make. So brand new API calls that didn't exist before. These are all on the beta endpoints at the moment. You can go and check them all out. I've put links to all of them in here. And then I've also gone through in this blog post kind of in the detail of the type of information they return, why you'd use them, the kind of, the things the reason they exist, and there's quite a few different ones for getting, data about the team, for understanding whether a user is in a shared channel or not, for understanding which tenants and which users have access to a particular shared channel, how to change that. So lots and lots of new things. There's a couple of known issues as well, which are worth being aware of. The first is a known issue with the OData ID property for one of them, or two of the methods. So that's definitely worth being aware of. And then the other one is that you can't currently create a shared channel via the API. So this is kind of a biggie. If you've got solutions, if you've got stuff out there that uses the Graph API to create channels, and you're hoping to create a shared channel via an API call, currently not something you can do unless you're in like a super private preview thing. There's a limited scope of tenants that can do this, apparently, according to documentation. Let me just find the documentation for you. So here we are. So during this time, the Microsoft Graph API to create a shared channel is available to a limited audience. So I'm guessing that's not everyone, but it says limited audience. They also go on to say, we recommend creating shared channels in the Teams client and using Microsoft Graph APIs to manage them. So the workaround for now is to create your shared channels manually, not through an API. Obviously, that might work for you, that might not. Depends on your circumstances and stuff, but there is no other way right now. You can create non-shared channels in the API. That's all you've always been able to do that, for a while, and that doesn't change. This is just shared channels. So lots to take in there. Lots of new API calls for developers, lots of new ways to work with shared channels. All very exciting. Good to see the APIs kind of come up to date with the reality, if that makes sense. It's really important that the API support for developers mirrors the kind of first-party products. So as new features are enabled, it's really important that the APIs can keep up with those. All right. That's the first thing. What else have we got? Let's move on to the next thing I wanted to bring your awareness to this week. This is something, it's a blog post put out on the Azure Communication Services blog, so switching from Microsoft Teams to Azure Communication Services for a moment. And really talking about advanced calling experiences. So what is this? So the ACS team call advanced calling experiences basically anything that's not using one of their built-in UI components, which makes sense. They've got a UI SDK. It's completely open source. You can create very friendly, like kind of very mobile-friendly experiences very quickly by literally dropping these React components onto the page and then wiring them together with an adapter. It's very simple. I recently did a talk for Teams Nation where I kind of demoed exactly how easy it was by building up a kind of full audio video kind of experience in the browser during like a 40-minute session, but actually only the UI bit was only about kind of 20 minutes of that, if that. So, and I started with a brand new like React, create React app. So it really was like from scratch. So I was using those. They're very easy to work with. They're very nice. But sometimes you kind of want to do your own thing. You might have specific requirements, or you might have very specific UI needs, or you might have a style guide you have to follow very rigorously, or any number of other reasons. And you want to go kind of directly to the core and build up your own user experience. If that's you, and that's what Microsoft call advanced calling experiences. This is a checklist for anybody writing those advanced calling experiences in mobile web browsers. Mobile web browsers is the kind of key point here, because doing it in a web browser is fine, is one thing, but there are all sorts of gotchas that happen in mobile experiences. And so this blog post is a really useful checklist for kind of things to go through. They go through things like permissions, interruptions. So for instance, incoming calls, FaceTime coming in, Siri will take over the microphone, all sorts of odd use cases that they've seen in troubleshooting and in testing. And they've also got recommended code flows for how to deal with all of that. Really, really nice. They cover kind of background tasks, updating of layouts, devices, call states. It's a really thorough blog post by people who've obviously been through this pain and now are kind of put all this stuff together, so you don't have to worry about it, basically. It's great. It's quite a big blog post. It's quite detailed. It's got screenshots. It's got code samples. It is well worth a read, actually. It's also worth kind of saving somewhere. Maybe you favorite things like this, or maybe you kind of save them as a PDF and just file them away somewhere, because you will want this blog post, even if you're not building anything with ACS for mobile devices right now. It might be that you will in like 6 months' time, and you'll wish you had this blog post to hand. It's one of those sort of super useful references that you want to file away and make sure you know how to get back to. All right. Let's look at what's next. This is a big one. So a big new sample gallery for Microsoft 365. Now, we've had sample galleries before for various different things. There's been a Teams code sample gallery. Before that, there was a Skype for Business one. And over on the Dynamics side, they've always had one, and SharePoint have had one. I think this is the first time there's been a cross Microsoft 365 one. I want to say, I think that's true. But this is the new definitive Microsoft 365 unified sample gallery, and it's got over 1,000 samples in it. Really nice. There's an introductory blog post here. There's a video by Vaser, and you can kind of see some screenshots here. It's very filterable, so you can choose the products you care about. It's got keyword searching. It's got author searching as well, which is nice, especially if you've seen a video and you want to kind of follow up on, who made that video and see some more of their work or whatever. Also, they will take contributions. It's a community project, so you can share your samples with them, and they will work to automatically to get them listed and get them uploaded and everything, which is really nice. They have this cool thing where they have a JSON file that defines all the stuff that they need in the gallery, and so they ask when you're making those contributions to kind of do that, and then it makes it much easier for them to kind of put it into the system. Really nice. So this is all being led by the Microsoft 365 community. Ooh, lots and lots of places to go from there. You can see all these different links to different samples and all the rest of it. So definitely, again, worth checking out. Again, something to bookmark because you might not need it now, but if you come to a new project, then actually being able to have a sample you can reference will be kind of very useful just to understand best practice, or even if something's possible or what it looks like or what the experience is going to be once you've done it, you can really kind of shortcut some of those questions. All right, so that is that. And then finally, I would just want to draw your attention to something that is not specifically Microsoft Teams and is not specifically development, but may be of interest or may come your way. So Microsoft Viva. Let's talk about that for a second. And a new kind of collection, if you like, of Viva experts and Viva enthusiasts called the Viva Explorers. A bunch of Microsoft MVPs located in Europe. And they've kind of joined together and thought, actually, we could do, the sum is greater than the sum of all of it is greater than the individual sum of all the bits. That's a terrible way of mashing up that saying. The idea is they just want to work together to share knowledge, help promote kind of the things that Viva can do, demonstrate some of the setup and how some of the best practice around that, and then also work with Microsoft kind of being that kind of conduit for user feedback to help improve what Viva is. So they are the Viva Explorers. And if you want to know more, you can go to this Microsoft Teams community blog post, and there's a session on it at the Women in Teams session on April the 13th, which is in 2 days' time as I record this. And they're going to talk about business benefits, they're going to talk about setup, licensing, adoption, roadmaps, and have some genuine fun. These are, I love this, these are the Viva Explorers in cartoon form, and there's some names in here that you will recognise. I'm not going to kind of call out anyone in particular because it's not fair for I kind of basically have to call out all of them because they're all, looking down that list, they are all experts in their own right. They all are, happily trust any of them to a Viva install, and they're all kind of very good MVPs as well as what they do. You can kind of, even if you can't see the names without me zooming in, you're going to have to go and check the blog post. You might be able to figure out some of them from their little avatars, their cartoon avatars there. But yes, so go check that out if you're interested in Microsoft Viva. If you want to know what Viva is all about and you just want to understand more about it, this is a good place to start as well. Go to that event in 2 days' time. It's open to anyone. That's it. Enjoy. All right, I think that is everything I want to talk about this week. There's another blog post coming out today about new functionality in Microsoft Graph. So if that sounds interesting, go and check that out. I'll talk about that next week. But yeah, whatever it is you're doing this week, have a super time and enjoy it. And I will talk to you again next time.